Hello everyone, this is Darin Martineau here from ProMagicArt.com. And in today's podcast, I'm going to talk about 11 tips on becoming a master magician. So we're going to start off with number 1, okay? And this is practice, rehearsal, and perform. We're going to talk about the differences between practice, rehearsal, and perform, okay? In anything you learn in life, whether it's magic or other arts, you must practice, okay? There's a right way to practice and there's a wrong way to practice, okay? When you have the cycle of magic, okay? Tommy Wonder talked about in his books of wonder, he said the vicious cycle. See, the difference between the professional and the amateur is that the professional performs the same tricks for different audiences again and again, and the amateur will perform different effects for the same audience. So you have to break yourself out of the vicious cycle. You have to practice. You have to practice hard. We use the mirror to check our angles. We use the video to do video rehearsal. And then we use live rehearsals. Then we use live performance. Before we actually perform for the audience, we have our practice audiences. You can do this in old age homes and if you do charity work and things like this. But you have to understand the difference between practicing, rehearsing, and performing. Okay, there's many tools when you rehearse. It's not only the video camera. You can review it by audio, so that you can work on your scripting. You can look at it just visually. You want to get a stopwatch. There's all kinds of things you want to do. And in my magic book, The Cerulean System, I talk all about it. I'm also currently writing a new book with Brian Smedley called Master Magic University. We may change the name of it. We're not sure as of now. We're looking at that book to come out in May of 2017. Okay? And finally, you must perform in front of the real audience. Now, there's much more than that, okay? We're just scratching the surface here, but this is going to be, I'm going to let all the secrets out here. I'm not doing this to expose, but I want to get you, the listener, into the art of magic. This is my goal, okay? Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, I want you to take a lot from this so that you can see how incredible magician you can become and how the cerulean system can affect you. Number 2, learn the rules of magic. Now, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you have many rules. Number 1, not reveal the secret, and that's obvious, okay? Magic's supposed to be a 1 in a million thing. And magic is not only about mystifying the audience, okay? Magic is about art. It's about entertainment. But okay, let's take an analogy for a second. Let's look at someone who's does pantomime. They're not saying a word, okay? If it's a good pantomime, you can really, they can affect you. I remember Armando Lucero saying he can be in the room. He can just add to the ambiance of the room. Whether people care that he's there or not, it's not just the fact that he's getting paid for it professionally, but you stay in character. You never break the character, okay? And there's a lot more than that, and we're going to talk about, okay? There's an old rule in the art of magic. Never reveal in advance what what you intend to do, okay? A true magician never reveals in advance what he intends to do. Now, you can read this. This is in the classics of magic, okay? It's in all the classic books. Tarbell, everything like that. In fact, I'm constantly going through my books. That's the other thing, is to read the books, really dive in deep into the books and devour them. Every day, just read a little bit. You can better yourself, and you can start to apply this and systemize this. Why doesn't it's obvious. You never want to reveal in advance what you're going to do so that they can try and catch you, so they can try and figure out the secret. Because if you expose everything that you know in magic, that's not the point. The point is it's about art and it's about entertainment. But at the same time, you never want the audience to anticipate so that they can try to catch the method. And it takes away the element of surprise. Okay? Now, under this circumstance, knowing when the thing is to be done, attention control would almost be impossible. Okay? Now, I was just reading the other day in the book, and this is in Our Magic from Neville Maskelyne, and some of these quotes come from there, and they're in the different books. The Art of Magic, T. Nelson Downs, also quotes from Our Magic, and that's where some of this comes from. But there's so many books, and we'll talk about books in another podcast, but this is just so brilliant. And this is, we're talking about over 100 years ago, they were talking about this. This is still, pertinent, still principle as today. The only thing that really changed, is, the principles never change. Maybe the effect, maybe the prop, different things, maybe the scripting. You have, effect, method, and presentation. Maybe those things change, but the principles, doesn't matter what art, they're going to stick. So what Neville Maskelyne from Our Magic says is, he says, modern magic deals exclusively with mental impressions, okay? The misdirection which forms the groundwork of magic does not consist in telling lies, with the object of deceiving the spectator's intelligence. It consists in misleading the spectator's senses. Now, if you read in the book Magic by Misdirection by Fitzke, that's where this particular quote comes from. He's talking about, you're not fooling the mind, we're actually fooling their thoughts. And this is getting into the deep in the psychology of misdirection, which I'm also writing about in our new book. And I mean, you can look at all the classics. If you take all the classics and say you take about 50, there's more than that, but if you take like the top 50 books on the classics of magic and you read each chapter on misdirection, you're really going to start to get a dynamic thing. And some people will say, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is outdated. Well, the principles actually aren't, because you can work on new magic, but if you don't have a basic foundation, you're going to be getting a lot of this stuff wrong. Because misdirection in itself, and the word, a better word, more modern, not just more modern, but a better way of looking at it is called indirection, which is more of a direction of attention. Because if you make the audience look away, and if they feel that you somehow done that, now you're bad, because that's not what magic is about. Just making them look there while you do the secret move. Because after the effect, if you were to ask them how that's done, they would use logic, and they would use, in the two perfect theory, they'd be able to backtrack. So you actually have to camouflage and disguise everything within the choreography and everything like this. It gets in, you're going to dive deep in here. We're going to have several podcasts where we go into detail. This is just a podcast on 11 tips to become a master. This is not, we're later going to do a podcast. We're going to go deep on each one of these topics and subtopics separately as well. So, back to the point. So, Neville Maskelyne says, misdirection, which forms the groundwork of magic, does not consist in telling lies with the object of deceiving the spectator's intelligence. Because, you never want to insult the audience's intelligence. They know that there's such thing as an illusion. They know it's not real magic. I mean, let's get real. I know there's some magicians that believe, they're going to do real miracles. And I'm not trying to say, if that's your style, I'm not trying to say don't do that. I'm saying the reality is that it's an illusion. Magic's an illusion. We're not here to try to just say that it is, but we're here to show it. And the thing is that, it's not just consistent misleading the senses, because it's about amazing them, not just fooling them, but there are these elements that we have to do, because it's about their mental impressions, okay? Now, magic happens in the spectator's mind. This comes into the level of claim and the level of proof must be balanced, okay? The real magic always seeks to be balanced. If it's out of balance, the magician loses credibility, okay? All strong magic is built upon these unshakable foundations: naturalness, plausibility, and conviction. There's many other things, but okay. Next point, number 3. Always remain a student of magic and seek out new masters. This goes with anything in life, but if you want to learn and get good, you must train with the best, okay? I'll give one example of that. A lot of people don't understand that Michael Skinner, he was from Buffalo, New York. He was friends with Eddie Fector, Mike Gallo, the Gallo brothers, and a whole bunch of other magicians. So it's not like, oh, they're mentors. Maybe they're just your peers. But if you hang out with a lot of really good master magicians, you're going to get influenced one way or another. You're going to get good because you're going to have a lot of friends where you can work on strong magic together. If you're going to be around people that you can trust. But you always want to be surrounding yourself with greatness. That goes with anything in life. Okay. Next point number 4. Be bold and keep perspective in magic. If you don't believe in magic, then why should your audience? You must be confident. Always be aware of your audience's perspective, okay? I think of the principle, which is in acting and film, which is called breathing space. If you're doing too much talking, then you want to have more action, or vice versa, but you want to have a balanced show with the 7, not just the 7 plots of magic, but you want to keep it interesting for your audience. You don't want them to be, making 3 piles of 10 cards each, blah, 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 where they're falling asleep. You want to always keep a perspective so that you're always going to get their attention, get their interest, hold their interest, and then build into the finale. You want to have magic that leads somewhere, and that's into your strong. Each thing you do should be better than the last. That's called a progressive structure. Okay. So the way you structure your routines and your magic. Okay. Now we're going to talk about although all one says during the course of the performance is not the mince the matter, tissues of falsehoods. This is a quote from Robert Houdin. A very strong quote. Not only did he say, the magician is the actor playing the part of magician. We can get into that in another one, but this is another one of Robert Houdin's quotes, very excellent, that I'm reading in all these books. He says, although all one says during the course of the performance is not to mince the matter, a tissue of falsehoods, the performer must sufficiently enter into the part he plays to himself, believe in the reality of his fictitious statements. This belief on his own part will infallibly carry a like conviction to the minds of the spectators. Now, if you look at actors like Denzel Washington, they really become their characters, and this is what the magician should do as well, in order to get the audience to come on the journey of the magic. Okay? Nothing should be neglected which may assist in misleading the minds of the spectators. This is not only for the psychological structure, but the scripting and everything like that. Okay? And note that Robert Houdin said the minds, not the senses, because we're not fooling their mind, we're fooling their thoughts, but it goes much deeper than that. If you look at all of the best, we're affecting the senses. Sight, sounds, everything like this. Okay. Next point number 5. Understand the moments. Ask yourself these 6 questions. Is your magic direct? Okay? Because Dai Vernon used to say confusion is not magic. So you want to use direct magic. Next question, is it a direct plot? You don't want to use too many combinations of confusing things. Like try to do 10 illusions in under 10 minutes and stuff like that, because it just gets too contrived. Next question, are you using good direction of attention? And that's just not in the misdirection aspects, but does your show flow, and are you keeping the audience's attention, and are you building it into the finale? Next question, are you using exclusive magic and diabolical methods? These are things that are going to separate you from the pack. Next question, number 5, using the true perfect theory. I'll make a podcast about the true perfect theory from Rick Johnson. The true perfect theory is an excellent thing, and it's basically too many things that are perfect, and it's going to become imperfect. Sometimes you want to add a little bit of imperfections into it. What's an example of that? Well, one example that Michael Amar uses, an effect that he does, is his gambling routine. Instead of just using the kings and aces, he looks like he messes up and he produces a 4, then he changes them to the 4s. This is a lot times more believable than just always everything kings and aces and things like this. So another example of that would be like, say you're doing a torn restored card effect, instead of just having the corner matches, maybe you have like they signed it and it's the corner, or you have little subtleties and little details to make the imperfections add to the structure of the conviction. Number 6, this should actually be one of the first questions you ask, and that is, does the magic fit my character? So you want to develop your character first, your magical character first. Before you even do one effect, you want to make sure, does your character even, do card effects? Maybe he doesn't. If he was a gambling character, maybe do gambling routines. Or, if he does comedy, what kind of comedy? What kind of props? Or is it propless? Is it actually more mentalism type effects? So before you develop your act, you want to develop your character and then do the things that match the character and don't break the theme. Okay, next point. This is a point, a lot of these points are overlooked, but this one I think is overlooked one of the most, and that magicians overlook. Point number 6, get professional consultation. I offer professional consultation myself, Brian Smedley. There's a lot of magicians that do. I've also sat in many professional consulting sessions, such as with Jonathan David Bass, with Morgan Striebler. That's one example. There's many, many others. I've worked with Taylor Reed. He's an illusionist. I've worked with many of the top people, from Guy Hollingworth to, you could go on and on and on. Dozens of masters use my magic, and I don't say this to impress you, but to impress upon you that I know what I'm talking about. And this illusion system is very powerful stuff. I'm putting everything into this. This next year, 2017, is going to be, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going all in. I'm going to put in every single secret in here and just constantly growing the system. Which brings me to the point number 7, which a lot of magicians overlook because they get overly influenced, and that is to be original. Be true to thyself, like Shakespeare says. Develop your own ideas, methods, effects, plots, presentations, and style. Have ethics. Do not steal other magicians' magic. Don't do it, because don't try to be someone that you're not. Don't try to, be like Copperfield or Lance or whoever you're trying to be like, because it just won't, it won't make sense. It won't come across. Don't be like a good, cheap imitation. Be yourself. And, there's lots of ways to develop original magic. I'm going to dive deep into that in other podcasts, but in my books, I'm really getting more into this. There's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of creative things. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is one of the books that I recommend as well if you have a writer's block or creative block in your magic. Next, we're going to talk about, first let's talk a little bit about originality. Original magic's important in the entertainment field because psychologically they should fit into the personalities of the inventors. Magic that's tailor-made to the individual magician obviously should be the best for him. And this is, I think, from Daryl Fitzke, and it's really awesome because it's basically saying, if you're doing someone else's magic, there is ways to make it more fit into your personality and everything like that. But, it's the old saying, Lance cannot be Matt King, and Matt King cannot be Lance. They're just two different characters and such. Next, point number 8. Be ahead. All magic is a one-ahead principle. And this goes not just for that you practice more than the next magician, but that you do your own original magic, and that even to everything we do in magic is the one ahead. When we're behind, we're going to get ahead. But when we're behind, we're ahead, if that makes sense. All magic, this comes from Larry Jennings, all magic is the one-ahead principle. And that also goes for other, things. Like when you look at McBride, how instead of trying to be like Lance and doing a dove act, he does masks and he goes a different direction. So forging your own road is more difficult, but it makes you a better magician because you're not trying to be someone that you're not. Okay, next point, number 9. Eliminate all unnecessary moves and discrepancies. This is the old saying from Di Vernon, confusion is not magic, okay? The audience will generally look where you look, okay? If they don't and they're burning you, a famous quote from Max Malini is, I wait. And that means if the audience is burning him, he'll wait until the right moment, until their attention lulls. And then when they're not looking or look in the eyes, you can simply look at, right when you do the top change, try this the next time. Look at the spectator's eyes, ask him his name or ask him a question. And the second you have eye contact, you know where their eyes are looking. That doesn't mean they can't see from their peripheral vision if you're doing the top change. It means, it's like all these magicians you see on YouTube and everywhere else where they do the pass and they want you to look at the hands when they do it. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to do it both ways, really, really clean. But with the misdirection is much cleaner because it's about the psychology, because, everyone wants to wait till they're burning your hands to do it. And you don't always have to do that. Sometimes, depending on the effect, you can do it. And it can be done, but isn't it better to, camouflage it? Next point, okay? In Tarbell, one of the greatest teachers on magic. I think one of the most overlooked books on magic or courses is the Tarbell course. I have more respect for Harlan Tarbell than a lot of magicians. And even people like McBride will say this. And I'm not just saying that because he is, even though I have a lot of respect for McBride, and I know he's one of the greatest magic teachers and one of the greatest magicians of all time. But it's because the more that I dive deep into this stuff and the more that I'm studying my books, and the more especially I'm studying Tarbell, it all points to Tarbell, as Tarbell is one of the greatest magic courses. Okay? In there he says, have a professional attitude. I think a lot of magicians have a really bad and really rotten attitude, not just about magic, but about life. And I think, a lot of times it's hard to trust magicians because a lot of them are thieves. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are, because they see something that works and they just think that, they'll just take it, and they might change one little thing on it, but they just don't get it. They don't understand, this is an art, and you have to be true to yourself. You have to have those things you're passionate about and build your magic around that, because if you're just stealing other people's magic and you have this attitude, you really need to just, check yourself, because there's a much better way, and that is to be a true artist, not a false artist. Okay? For your audience, perform for them and not at them. Smile, and that doesn't mean you're smiling. There's a time to be funny, and then there's a time to be serious in the magic. You smile and use proper pauses and use eye contact. Use good eye contact. This is more in showmanship tips, but it's a part of being professional. Perform for every person in the room, including the people in the back that may not be able to see as well, just from the distance. So when you're speaking, you can learn from speaking classes, Toastmasters, and all kinds of things. You want to raise your voice up, and you want to use different techniques to project. We'll get into that in other podcasts. We don't have time to talk about all this. This is a lot. Use audience interaction, and that doesn't mean you just do the sponge ball trick in their hands. Come on. Audience interaction is about the audience rapport. It's also about having good audience management techniques. Okay, what's an example of that? You can take like just one funny scenario. Take a kid, not like a kid, but like a young man, whatever. Then take two beautiful women from the audience, sandwich the young man between them, and it just kind of creates a funny scenario just in itself. And that's not even getting into what magic you do or whatever like that. You could do whatever you're going to do, like say it's the professor's nightmare, and you can do it in a totally new way to where, you could have these three people up there and have audience interaction, but that's an audience management technique. And there's many books that talk about this and things that we'll get into in our books. But that will make the magic in itself stronger impact. Principle number 11 is the principles of misdirection, or indirection is a better, more modern explanation. Some of the principles in misdirection are the psychological misdirection, psychological interpretation, what's going on in the spectator's thoughts, conviction, which is, again, the level of claim and the level of proof. Naturalness has to do with not only, the physical naturalness, but naturalness has to do with, how we present the magic in a natural way so it doesn't look so scripted. Timing. Timing is everything. Having the right timing for the magic and the movements. The sleights are not done always while they're burning you. You can do that. Subtle misdirection. Then there's something called simulation and dissimulation. Okay. The magic should simulate reality. Okay. And there's a quote from, I think it's from Henning Nelms. All magic is discrepant, and that is pretty much true. It is, because it's an illusion. So all magic is dissimulation and discrepant, but we can work on things to make it more natural by eliminating those unnatural actions and unnatural scripting and things like this. And that brings us to escanio, which is tension and relaxation. This has to do with transit and in-transit actions. Relaxation, you want to relax not just from the hand, but from the hand to the arm to the shoulder. In Tai Chi, it's all about relaxation as well. Interpretation, good choreography of motion and economy of motion. Okay. Pretense, ruse, anticipation, disguise, diversion. There's time-delayed misdirection. There's the two-perfect theory. There's conditioning the audience, throughout the structure of the routine and the scripting. And that goes to the level of claim and level of proof. There's the scripting and the speech in deception. There's the use of the eyes. There's neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, and the power of suggestion. There's built-in misdirection, and then we get into a lot of other things. So anyway, that's our podcast for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you'd like to find out more, if you want to find out where all the awesome secrets are, head on over to promagicart.com and check out my Cerulean system, where I have over 500 videos and tutorials. Thank you very much. Have a great day.